Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this session on an insight into office management, and thank you very much to Daniel for inviting me to hold a session at the PA Forum Learning and Development Conference online. It's a pleasure to meet you, albeit virtually, and my name is Hannah Gray. I'm the founder of the Office Management Group and Black and White Office Consultancy, and I'm going to take you through the slides today and hopefully give you a bit more information on what office management is and how to nail the role. So as I said, my name is Hannah Gray. I've spent 15 plus years in PA, EA, assistant and office management roles, working for companies like JP Morgan, RBS, City Index, Berenberg, mostly within the financial sectors, but also in real estate industries. I founded Black and White Office Consultancy in 2016. And we cover various sectors here, which include charity, education, insurance, finance, fintech, retail, and many more. And our aim there is to support businesses with anything and everything they need in terms of office management. So we do things like move projects, health and safety consultancy, business continuity planning, office management recruitment and reviews, training, and so on and so forth. And then later on into my entrepreneurial career, I set up the Office Management Group and the Office Management Portal from 2017. And I'll tell you a little bit more about those later. So what are you going to learn today? It might be that you're here because you're already an established office manager and you want to just take a little bit more skills and enhance your role, and that will definitely be an area that we'll look at. Or it might be that you're new to office management, or you're looking at moving into this position and you want to learn more about what it is and how to nail the job. So we're going to share 3 key areas of responsibility and how you can nail them to make sure that you're creating that safe, productive environment which is motivating for your staff to work in. We're going to ensure that you embrace your office management role and really own it to showcase your top skills and your values. These roles are very much isolated at times. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So we're going to make sure that you embrace it, you enjoy it, and you own it because it's a vital role in these companies. We're going to have a look at how you can make sure that you're minimizing workload, but also maximising the output that you give to your company, your business, your staff and your executives. And then I'm going to show you a little bit about the office management resources, including the portal, and how you can use it to make sure that you are fully equipped and resourced up to max to do your office management role. So what exactly is office management? It's the profession involving the design, implementation, evaluation and maintenance of the process of work within an office or any other organisation in order to sustain and improve efficiency and productivity. That's according to Wikipedia. We sum it up, however, as being the office managers responsible for ensuring a safe, healthy and effective working environment with the minimum disruption for all staff, clients and contractors. So it really is your responsibility to create that world that they come into each day, be it virtually, perhaps more so now, but when they're in that office, making sure that environment works for them so that they can just focus on getting their job done, which is what everybody really is there to do. So it's your role to make sure that there's very little disruption, things are ticking over, the coffee's working, the coffee machine is working, the air conditioning is doing what it should be, door handles aren't falling off, and all these sorts of things that just minimise that disruption to their day-to-day role, ensuring that they can get on with their job. So how do we typically get here? Most of us, and certainly it's true for myself, come in through one of these routes. So being an assistant, a PA, EA, secretary, whatever it might be, being in another similar admin position, and then moving into the office management role from there. So I got involved in an office move, for example, so that covers the last section here on project involvement. As an assistant, I put my hand up to do an office move, and I was involved in office management from there, and I saw it, I found it, and I fell in love with it, and I progressed intentionally into the role from there. So most people are given that kind of hybrid role of being an assistant and having office management responsibilities, not necessarily the title, and then you progress further into it. A number of receptionists also move from reception to office management, and likewise they're often given responsibilities. I know in the past, receptionists that I've managed, I've certainly empowered them to be far more involved in the office management and the facilities running than they were before I started with the company, and that enabled them to progress into sort of junior office management roles and then become office managers later down the line. You may have gone straight into it being an office junior or office administrator, where you have been given specific responsibilities working directly with the office manager, facilities manager, operations manager, whatever the title might be, where you are directly under their wing, supporting them and getting involved in things from the off. Or like I said earlier, project involvement. So you may have been involved in, for example, an office move or a tender project, so looking after things like cleaning contractors, and you had a taste for it there and then you wanted to progress further from there. That's generally how we end up in these roles. What are the key areas of the role? So this is where we're going to look at those 3 key areas now. So the box, as I like to call it, is the first piece, and this is the office itself, or the workplace. So it's the outline frame of where you work, that kind of, if you quite literally draw it as a box, the place where you work, and everything it takes to run that. So things like making sure everything's safe, fixtures and fittings like lighting and safety systems, landlord requirements, so on and so forth. Everything that sits within that box is your responsibility. And then you have the people. So these are employees, but also visitors, contractors, anyone else that comes to your premises, that comes to your place of work. You have a responsibility to keep them safe, but also to make sure that they have specific training designated to them, like if they do manual handling. A lot of IT people will do manual handling by lifting and installing PCs and other equipment like monitors and servers and so on and so forth. They'll have a manual handling role, so you would need to assign them with training for that. Anyone that's working at height, all sorts of different things that you would need to look at here. Individual and group-based requirements, health and safety management, DSE, so display screen equipment assessments, and so on and so forth. So not necessarily from the HR perspective, but more from the health and safety, nurturing, culture, that kind of perspective, and making sure that. And then you've got your suppliers and services, so the people who provide you with the goods and or services that support the running of your office. So take it again, the coffee, be it the coffee beans themselves or the coffee machine, you're being supplied with some equipment and a service there to maintain it, but also the product. Plants, cleaning, engineering, light bulb changes by your handyman. It can go on and on and on, the shredding, the recycling, etc. The list is vast. So they're the other piece of the role, the 3 key areas: the box, the people, and the suppliers and services. So looking at the box in a bit more detail now, typical items in your box will be things like emergency signage and life safety equipment and life safety systems. So looking at things like your fire signage and emergency exit signage, fire extinguishers, your smoke heads, sprinklers, so on and so forth. All that sort of stuff will be somewhere on the floor, in the ceiling, hanging loose somewhere in your office. They're things that you need to look after. Lighting and emergency lighting, so in the ceiling most of the time, they're part of your box, they're fixed items. Air conditioning and fresh air systems, they might sit under your landlord's responsibility, but you will no doubt be in communication with them about problems and addressing it. Or it might sit under your responsibility and you need to work with your engineering team to maintain it, to make sure filters are cleaned and so on and so forth. So that's a big part of responsibility as well. Doors, walls, ceilings and voids, flooring and floor voids, all of this is part of it. Electrics, data and other services. Essentially, much like the diagram here, picture everything in your home, everything that you have in your home. So I've got a light above me, I've got computer equipment here, a chair, a desk, flooring, carpets. I clean the house, I pay my bills to keep my electricity on, my utilities like my gas and my water running, my council tax, my mortgage fees, all that kind of stuff. Not just the assets, but everything that I need to do to keep my house running is similar to what you would need to do to keep your office running, just on a much bigger scale, and with a few more people in it to look after. So maybe more on the side of children as well. Maybe if you've got children at home, you'll understand. But yeah, there'll be a lot of children essentially to look after, and they're our clients, they're your employees and your visitors and your contractors. So now looking at the people. So employees, as I mentioned briefly earlier, they have rights in relation to their workplace. And the Health and Safety at Work Act of 1974, via the Health and Safety Executive here in the UK, stipulates how we should keep people safe. And I've put a link in here so you can have a look at that at a later date if you're not aware of the responsibilities there. When you're working in an office or any workplace, we tend to see that all staff, visitors and clients are our clients. They're directly our clients as the office manager. It's our responsibility to make sure that they are safe, they're happy, they're motivated, all those things I've talked about earlier, and that environment is working for them so they can get on with their job. And the suppliers and services, so as I said before, it's everything else that helps you to run your office and provide for the staff within it. So the coffee and the tea, the pens, the paper, and everything in between. There's so much that we supply, even in terms of virtual technology. If IT perhaps sits under your responsibility or you work closely with the IT teams to look after it, you'll know that there's a great deal, conferencing lines and Zoom, whatever it might be, all these different suppliers and service providers, we need to manage those effectively. My tips are that you regularly meet with your suppliers and providers and ensure that you're getting the right service or supply at the very best price. And that doesn't necessarily mean the cheapest, it means that it aligns to the quality of service you're getting. So how can you own this office management role? So if you're already in office management, it's really useful early on in your role to try and obtain feedback. And if you're already in your role and you're not doing that, get feedback at any point and do it regularly. Get it from the employees, people that you manage perhaps, your peers, and make a list and try not to make any promises at any stage on anything that you're giving feedback on. Digest it, pop it on your list and come back to it at a later date when it's appropriate if it's not a priority. If you're new to your office management role, be it you're new to office management altogether and you're starting a brand new job as the office manager for the first time, or you've done office management before and you're moving to a new company, this is a great tip for you as well. Get feedback, move around the office, speak to people, how does it work here in terms of you reporting issues to us as a team? How quickly do we respond to it? Is there anything you think we can improve on? How do you find the air conditioning here? Tricky question to ask, but you will want to do it. Any problems? Do you know of any problem areas? And so on and so forth. So yeah, get that list in place. If you're new to it, create this master things to do list. I call it a rolling project list of things to do. And I think you can have that forevermore in your role. It's a really good way of getting stuff out of your head every day, every night when you leave the office, popping it onto a rolling project list. And there's a number of tools like Notion. You can use Google Sheets where other people can have access to it, SharePoint sites, or just a regular Excel sheet, whatever suits you, chuck it on your list, have it there, and then maybe check in with it daily, weekly, monthly, and prioritize. Yeah, when you're well established in this role as well, there's no better time again to start this kind of thing now if you're not already doing it, to make that list of things you need to do. To give you an example, in one of my previous roles, when I started, for the first 3 or 4 weeks, I just made a list. So I had an iPad, so every time I went around the office doing housekeeping checks, I would make notes of things that weren't necessarily immediate fixes. Lights out, I would obviously report quite quickly, but in terms of going around and seeing things like millions of printers that weren't in use and just sitting there dusty and old, I would put printers, what's happening here, print contract, and look at that at a later date. And yeah, just anything that's perhaps more than a couple of minutes job, pop it on that list and come back to it later and ask around what's happening with this. Build a database of existing suppliers and service providers. Have everything at your fingertips, always. It's so key to do this. So things like that database of service suppliers and providers, e.g. even the handyman who changes those light bulbs, the stationery supplier and the landlord, the service provider for the building, or the managing agent, and add contract information to that tracker as well. So, the cleaning contract started in January 2019 and it runs out in January 2021 with 3 months notice, which needs to be given by this date in order to act on it. It costs us £50,000 a year, etc., etc. Just high level information, so you've got all of that stuff right at your fingertips. So when instances come up, or you're challenged, or you're asked for information from your managers or whoever it might be, you can just go, yeah, no worries, 1 second, got it here, this, and this. This is what we're paying, this is when we can get out of it, and so on and so forth. And that's not just the case with your suppliers and your service providers, that's with everything. So have information, for example, on your office lease, or your service charge, and your rates, and your rent review periods, or your office service agreement, and your co-working space agreement, whatever it might be, and your termination dates and rights, break options to determine, always different clauses and names and things that we tend to hear, your insurance policies, square footage, what capacity, what's your maximum office capacity, and how are you doing with that, checking on your capacities regularly, the price per square foot, rate, service charge amounts, all these sorts of things. Have them at your fingertips, and yeah, it will make your job so much easier. Be a proactive master, and there's so many different ways that you can do this. So here's a few tips. Do housekeeping regularly. So I mentioned that earlier, that I used to do that in my role, and I would do it daily. I had, in my last permanent position, I had an office of about 65,000 square feet across 3 floors, and we had some basement space as well. I would go out there every day, every morning, around the same time, first thing when I got in, and do the housekeeping check, either with a clipboard and a piece of paper on it that had sort of specific areas to check and things to look out for, or as I say, on my iPad and make notes. And then eventually, when I built my team up, I would get them to do it every day and rotate between them. And I might then do it once a week, once every other week, just to get that second pair of eyes on it. So get out there. The benefit of doing this housekeeping check is that you get out there and you say hi to people. There'll be some early risers in the office if you start early, and they'll be like, hey, Hannah, oh, I meant to tell you about this thing I saw the other day, or thanks so much for getting that job done, or whatever it might be. You're getting out there, you're getting around, you're being seen, and you're being proactive, and you're going to get to a lot of these issues before they get mentioned to you, before they actually arise or become an issue. So let's say, for example, you have a shower room on one of your floors, and you do your housekeeping check and you notice that it's dirty, it's not being cleaned properly overnight, there's lots of stuff left, lost property, etc. You want to grab that lost property, you report it to the cleaning team if they're still around, or you might need to get it cleaned separately to that, but you can get ahead of it before someone comes to you and says, Hannah, that shower is filthy today. Block toilet, same thing. You put a notice up saying engineer has been called, equipment, coffee machines, printers, air conditioning. You walk around the office, does it feel really hot from one area to the other? Report it to your engineer, send an email to people in that area. Understand it's really hot this morning. I've already reported it to the engineer. It should feel better in about an hour's time. If not, let me know. The proactiveness and the change from always getting it in the neck from people for problems rising to you owning it and saying, there's a problem, I'm already on the case, it will be fixed by the end of the day or within an hour, whatever it might be. And prepare for everything possible, every single meeting, every eventuality, every single thing where you can. You clearly can't predict the future, but by having those things at your fingertips, by preparing, so for example, for a meeting with any of my bosses or any of my peers, I would have notes, 2, 3, 4 notes, whatever it might be, on a pad of things I wanted to talk about. Even if it was, can you give me an update on this? HR, if I meet with them, what's the situation with joiners? How many are sitting in the pipeline as approved headcount that you're going to start interviewing and hiring that's going to come my way and want a bum on a seat somewhere? And what departments do they belong to? Really prepare for everything. And then get to know your masters of all. So I call these roles jacks of all, masters of some. And what I mean by that is that you can't be the master of every single thing that you do in your office. You can't be the engineer, you can't be the plumber, you can't be the electrician, you can't be the cleaner, you can't be the handyman, you can't be the data controller, the compliance officer, the lawyer. You get the picture. So what you can do instead is lean on the people, particularly your service providers and your goods providers, who are the experts, and challenge them and ask, what does it mean? Tell me more about this. What does X mean? And so on and so forth. How does it affect us? What's the latest technology available to me? And so on and so forth. Lean on your masters, because they will help you to gain so much knowledge and do your job more effectively. Build good relationships with them where you can. And yeah, whatever it is, connect with them and learn. Now I want to talk about embracing it. It really can be a thankless job at times, and that probably isn't me selling it to you if you're not yet in office management, but for me, it is my absolute passion. I truly love office management. I find it such a fulfilling role most of the time. But the reality is, yeah, it can be thankless. People are coming to you with complaints and things to fix, but you need to find the ray of light in a lot of that. So remember that you are vital to the company, even if they don't remember it at all times. You are that linchpin that holds everything together. You're the go-to person, you're the glue. So that is something to hang on to when you start going into these roles. Every day, basically, in my view, and in a lot of people that I've talked to, experts and professionals around this industry, around this profession, agree that you are basically the office superhero. So remember that, because it's true. And take the wins when they come, even if they're small. Make notes of your achievement, save the feedback when it comes in. If someone, when you're doing your housekeeping check, if someone says to you, oh, by the way, Hannah, thanks so much for sorting that out. It might be that you did a desk assessment with someone and they say, oh my God, my back feels so much better. I'm really, really glad you took the time to do it. I really appreciate it. Just say, no problem, thank you so much. Do you mind dropping me an email with that in? I'd really appreciate it. I've got a little sort of feedback file. They'll remember that you have that, and then when other stuff happens, which is good and positive, they will probably send you more feedback. And if you're not comfortable doing that, just make a note, just write it down, send yourself an email with what they said and pop it in your feedback file, because it will make you feel so uplifted on the days when things just aren't going particularly well. And there will be days like that. There's always days like that in every profession. It really helps when it comes to writing your CV and selling yourself when you're looking at moving on, because that may happen sometime in your career where you make the decision, or it's perhaps made for you to move on. So being able to refer back to the feedback and just how kick-ass you are at this job is really helpful. These times will come. The thanks will come. You've just got to go out there, do your thing, and know that you are a superhero. So to that point, it's so vital to share your successes. And a lot of people don't generally do this in any roles, but successes are easier to identify in other roles where perhaps someone's in a sales position and they're making money for the company and it's target driven, and they can see, oh, you exceeded your target by 20% this month. It's incredible. Everybody celebrate. Give them employee of the month, give them a medal, give them dinner out and vouchers and so on and so forth. That might not happen in this profession. So you need to be the one that's shouting and sharing your success stories. You can start, by shouting about your successes. So by this, I don't mean quite literally sitting at your desk and chatting, but sharing it with people. If you've done an office move and it's gone well, write to everybody afterwards saying, hey, everybody, the move's gone really well. If you have any problems, let us know. And I would thank other people that were involved at that point. So if you had some of your juniors working with you, if you had contractors working with you, include them in the email if you can, and thank them, because that thanks will come back to you as well. Learn from your failings. It's a difficult one to do, but making sure that you accept that sometimes we will fail, we will fall. That's what makes us stronger. We can only learn when we fall and when we fail, because we're not perfect, and aiming for perfection just isn't right. So making sure that you're making notes of that, take it on the chin, move on, and continue to learn and grow. Create a management information pack or an MI pack. This is a really nice way of sharing your successes and shouting about your successes in a professional, succinct way. I've got some templates that I can share on the Office Management Portal, which I'll tell you a little bit more about later. But essentially, you want to include things like any spend, budget, run rates, and so on and so forth that you've had, any savings that you've made for the company, changes that you've made that have improved things like the service, the supply, the quality, and have made an impact and made a difference to people in your office. Remember, that's your main role, is to make sure they can get on with their job and they can do it successfully. But if you've done anything that's had an impact on the profit and loss, a positive impact on the P&L, tell people about it. So create this pack, give it to your manager, maybe quarterly, maybe 6 monthly, and outline what you're working on. We've done so many moves this month. We've onboarded so many joiners, offboarded so many leavers, etc. Positive stories that also build up a picture of exactly what you guys are up to in your team. And lean on your staff, delegate, upskill, and trust them. The only way you can generally progress, and I remember being told this many years ago by one of my most fondest managers that I hold a good torch for, is that you can't often progress and take on more unless someone is able to take things off of you. So where you can delegate and pass things along the chain or down the chain, you're showing some really good leadership skills and development and motivational skills for your team. And then having the ability to say, oh, I've got so-and-so to look after this particular project now, work with me on it. I'd really like to help you, Mr. Manager or Mrs. Manager or whoever it is, with X. Do you think that's okay? Because I've got a bit more capacity now that I've trained them up to help me on this. It's a really good way to share success. Now we're going to talk about being busy versus productive. It's quite a tricky one, but essentially, I want you to think about a time you had a busy day. Did it feel like you got a lot done, or did it feel like you were just running around like a headless chicken? There's a big difference between being busy and being productive. And multitasking, which we tend to have to do in these roles, constantly switch from one thing to another or do a few things at the same time, especially if you're an office manager who's a PA and you're based on reception. You've got 3 different roles there that you're having to dip in and out of or do consecutively. And we're constantly switching tasks, but not necessarily finishing them or being confident with finishing. It means that we often end up saying yes to everything and are being distracted by things that are going on around us. And we don't often take time to get breaks in between tasks, and perfection is often not gained, but it's what we're seeking, and it just doesn't exist, and you end up feeling really, really rushed. So how can you be productive? The first thing is to stay focused, stay on task. If you feel like focus is slipping from one particular task or both tasks, if you're multitasking, stop and choose the one that's most important, or change the task altogether and come back to that one if you can at a later date, because you've clearly lost the motivation and the focus to work on it. Stick to lists. So by having something to refer back to, you'll always be able to get back on track easily. And when you have had to multitask, which will happen on occasion, particularly in these roles, you'll be able to come back to it and say, right, okay, where was I up to here? Right, let's carry on. Stay organised, keep useful tools at your fingertips. We've mentioned this already and how you can do that. By having them at your fingertips, it will help you to pull back on track very easily. Keep your mailbox clear, calendar and filing systems in check. Difficult one to do, but there is a lot of learning out there available from peers in our profession. So have a look out for those, and I can share some information if you need it. Remove distractions. So I have, for example, turned my phone on silent and turned it over to do this presentation with you today, because that thing buzzing and flashing away is such a big distraction, and I don't want it right now. I want to make sure I'm giving you my full attention. And it's the same with things in the office. If you need that time to switch off, go to a quiet pod and room and work for an hour so that you can work on that really important presentation you need to give to your manager, because you're selling how you can, save lots of money by doing this particular change, or why you want to hire someone to help with you and you want to get the budget to do that and hire that headcount. Whatever it might be, choose that time to remove the distractions. If it helps, use music. I use a lot of concentration and calm music on Spotify, which are like piano playing lists. I find them really they really help me to get in tune and focus on the task. I think I used them when I was writing these slides, actually, to listen to and zone out and give it my all. Yeah, change the environment if you need to as well. So I've said about moving rooms if you need to. It might be more helpful to you if you're working from home at the moment to go and work from the sofa for a while. Change that environment, because perhaps the environment has become demotivating for you and you just need to switch it up a bit. Make time to stop. I'm so focused on this that I'm not actually moving the slides along with me. Here we go. Make time to stop. Ensure you have a break. 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off is perfect, the perfect balance. If you can't do that, do 55 minutes on and 5 minutes off. But ideally, want to aim for 25 minutes on and 5 minutes off. It will really keep your brain ticking over, enough rest time to refocus, re-energize, and come back to it. Prioritize, review things regularly, every morning, or my best tip is each night before you go. So if you're like me and you're a lists person, be it on the computer or be it on paper, make sure that you're checking that list and adding to it and reorganizing the night before you leave the office, because it really lets your brain kind of release that night. So you're not waking up overnight going, oh, I needed to do that, and so on and so forth. And you come in the next day ready to smash it out. And no matter what hits you, you've got that list ready. Be realistic with deadlines when you're doing that as well. Don't try and overachieve or give yourself unrealistic expectations, because you don't want to set yourself up. And progress versus perfection. Understand the difference and accept the balance there is so important, because progress is getting things done. Perfection is an unrealistic target that I used to say in interviews, I'm a perfectionist, and I would sell it like it was a good thing. And we're talking about 15 to 20 years ago when I was first looking for my very first jobs. And actually, it's not a good thing to strive for perfection. It's far better to be productive and progress. So how can you maximize the output now that you're giving to your clients, your employees, your staff, your executives? Think about what tools you can use. What can you lean on to reduce your work efforts? E.g. self-service type responses on Slack, for example. So someone would put in, what's the Wi-Fi code? And Slack might spit out what it is. And, where can I find out about who to order business cards from? So you can get a lot of auto responses set up on there and on other systems as well. And make sure that upfront training is given where you can offer support and advice, and they know who to come to for more information. So employee inductions, for example, at that point you might supply them with health and safety training, but also some other information that's just useful to share knowledge, and it will reduce the amount that they're coming back to you for day in, day out. Have your foundations in place. So this is your building blocks. Again, much like your fingertips, the list, the filing system that is second to none, the contacts, the costs, all that other key info that you just want right there, and you know exactly where it is, and you can tell other people exactly where it is in your team or in your company. Once you've built those up, and it will take time to get it there, you can just manage it from there onwards, and it is such a simple piece to run. It will in turn allow you to maximize the workload that you are putting out there and significantly reduce your workload, i.e. the more you put in initially, the more you will get out. Be the font of all knowledge to the execs and the interns. Have it all there and share that knowledge where it's needed. And don't be that yes person who ends up with too much on their plate. There's a degree in which in these roles, as a go-to person, you have to be a yes person. But there are ways in which you can politely, professionally say no. And here are some alternatives to saying, yeah, I can do that. And then, why did I take that on? I've already got a full month because we've got this office move to do. I'm doing this CRM project. I'm looking at our business continuity plan. Health and safety needs updating. And there's just the day-to-day crux of the job to do as well. So here's some alternatives. Provide resources, find a solution themselves, direct them to the right contact. Introduction emails work really well. So here's so-and-so, they can help you with it. And then hopefully they'll go straight to the next time, rather than you going to the person that's the right contact, saying what is needed and so on and so forth, and being the middleman. Show them how to do it, make it clear that they can and they should do it next time. And you need to be careful in terms of judgment here. Obviously, if it's an executive and it's a really senior person in the company, do you really want to be telling them how to do it themselves next time? Are they the right person to do that too? Probably not. They might just be the ones that you go that extra mile for. But in the general case, for most employees, if it's not your job remit and it doesn't even sit near it, you want to make sure that they're educating themselves on how they can do it and help themselves next time. And you will get these crazy silly requests over time, over the course of your office management career. And it's sometimes difficult to say no, but do feel free to say no where it's right to. Push back, stand your ground, and be the independent and strong person that you absolutely can be. It also comes in handy with your contractors and suppliers, being able to say no, being able to challenge situations, because sometimes they can be quite a force to be reckoned. So now I'm going to talk about the resources that are available in your roles. I'm so proud of this. The Office Management Portal is my baby. It's a platform that I developed in 2017 after doing some research early on in that year to over 100 office management professionals across the UK to find out what resources they would like and what resources are out there. And there's so much for PAs and assistants, and very rightly so, but there wasn't really anything that I could find, particularly in this country, specific for office managers, giving us that support, giving us the tips and advice, contacts directory, an events and training calendar, and exclusive and expert webinars. So this is what we set up. There's also a forum and a jargon buster, a little bit of a Google for office managers in there. And recently we introduced a Slack channel, which is really, really nice community. It's a little bit more instantaneous communication between them. We've now got over 1,000 members across the UK and around the world that are on this platform. It's free to be a member, and there are templates available as well. So a number of the things that I've mentioned in these slides, like the MI pack, the contractor and supplier list, the lease list, which shows your square footage and your cost per square foot and all these different things, those templates are in the portal, as well as so many others. There are around 200 templates to help you in your role, covering things like office moves, fit out projects, health and safety. And there's a snapshot here of the health and safety audit sheet, so you can do a bit of a self-assessment to make sure that you are where you should be when health and safety is concerned for your office. HR, events, data protection and security, facilities management, like what we call PPM calendars, so preventative planned maintenance, to make sure your engineers doing everything they should be on time, including some legislative things, but also some just good fashioned maintenance checks on things like fire doors and making sure they close properly and the seals are all intact, and so on and so forth. Assistant duties, we've got lots of travel templates and courier booking, car booking, taxi booking, things in there as well, business continuity management, and many, many more. And I would love for you to join us and be part of this ever-growing community. We also run networking events as part of the portal, as part of the office management group in London. So we'll hope to start those again next year. They're free to come to if you're in the office management profession. And by that we mean you could be a PA, you could be an assistant, you could be a receptionist, anyone that has any sort of admin responsibilities, where you may have a responsibility for running any part of your office as well, be it ordering stationery or something much more hands-on. So please do join us. It's free to be a member. So for more information, you can contact us. Here's our details and the link to join the Office Management Portal if you can. And we'd love for you to connect with us on social media. We've got plenty of videos on our YouTube channel as well for more about office management and how to do this role and nail it. We would love for you to join us, and I hope to see you soon. If you have any questions, please do feel free to reach out. Thank you so much.